Inside Rock, an exploration of resilience through the world of music. We are about to go on an expedition with the band who had the biggest selling album of all time until Michael Jackson, a 4-time multi-platinum album award winner. They have been described as the precursor to heavy metal, inspired Ringo Starr's contribution to the second side of the Beatles album, Abbey Road, and continues to rock audiences with live shows for 5 decades. Iron Butterfly. Eric Barnett, Mike Green, Dave Meros, Martin Gerschwitz, and Ray Weston met up with Inside Rock during their Soul Experience tour to share the strengths they believe have contributed to Iron Butterfly's cross-generational success. Inside Rock will identify the strengths that were evident throughout the interview. And now, Iron Butterfly. Iron Butterfly came to be over 50 years ago and continues to rock audiences and sell out shows. What do you feel has contributed to Iron Butterfly's success?
DeVita, for sure. That came out and just blew the doors open. You know, no one had ever heard anything like that before. And, you know, how many million albums did they do?
33, 34.
Million by now.
And so that's created a little bit of longevity for the band.
I see. Okay. I think Dave is right. I know it's definitely In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, but I think that also when the band finally came out and got heard, their sound was different. It was trend-setting, if you will. You know what I'm saying? They are credited supposedly starting with the heavy metal and et cetera, but I just think there was a lot of difference in what you heard. Doug Ingles' voice, for sure. Doug Ingles' keyboard playing. You know, Ron Bushy's drumming. Lee Dorman's bass playing. It was a real cohesive unit. And even the guys that were there before them, a short period of time, it blended. Guys like Danny Weiss on the Heavy album, just naturally talented people. And talented and able to expand differently than what was there. You know what I'm saying? And it caught the attention. And like Dave said, when In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida came out, the sky was the limit, you know. So I think that was it. Not a novelty act like a carnival novelty, but a novelty that it was different. And it attached itself to the culture, and the culture attached itself to it.
We have 4 generations of people that are coming, you know, all the way from grandparents, from 12 all the way to, you know, 80s. That it's been really interesting to see how it's been able to live through every generation, and that's just phenomenal. Sitting with a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old that is learning guitar for the first time, or learning, you know, an instrument for the first time, and that someone in their family, whether it was their father or their grandfather, or maybe later than that, or what, you know, introduce them to this music, and that they're willing to come and they really pay attention, and they're involved in it, and they see it as more than just the state of music right now. The state of popular music right now, it really seems to be flat, and they find something deeper and something more meaningful in what it is that we're doing, that has lived through all these years, and it's touching these younger people, you know, on that level, and that inspires me. I always give my number out to anybody that's learning or that wants to be involved in music, and say, give me a call and I will help you, because that's what, you know, it's really kind of what it's all about. And it's inspiring. It makes me want to go back and play. I look, you know, to the connection to everybody, but it's really heartwarming to see that in these kids.
What you're saying, it makes a lot of sense. Even that young kid we saw the other night at Kennett Square, you remember how excited he was? I mean, this guy was like he had met the Pope or somebody. And he taught his father about Iron Butterfly. I think he was maybe 18 or 19. Remember? He taught his dad, and his dad was like, God, you guys are amazing. I mean, they were both, and what was really cool is to see that they were both digging the same music. He wasn't saying, oh, turn that shit off, you know, or that kind of thing. They were into it, and it just reaches everybody.
All right, I have something. To me, I grew up classically and with church organ and stuff like that. and I was actually shielded from the Beatles and whatever because it was like, you know,
The devil's music.
it was bad music in my parents' eyes. But then In-A-Gadda Da Vida came out, and I realized, and I actually took the record after it came out, I took it to my dad and said, "So Dad, what do you think?" He said, "That's much more church-like." I said, "Yeah, you know what? Because Doug Ingles' dad was a church organ player, and you are my dad, you're a church organ player, so what would you think about if I play that kind of stuff?" He said, "Well, I don't really understand it, but I would kind of say, yeah, go ahead
Cool.
and do this."
Yeah, that's cool.
Green light.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
story.
and then on top of it is, I needed a girlfriend really bad. And there was a really long song and it was great, you know. because
Some things never change.
You had, you had lots of time doing things, you know, without changing the record.
You know what's cool what you just said though? You kind of reinforced it. And I don't know if you heard the way you said it, but I did. When you said I talked to my dad, there was an obvious love for your father there, and he was talking to you and giving you guidance, and you were asking him for guidance, and it was about something he would have never even talked about before.
Yeah.
But he said, "Go ahead."
What I'm Butterfly put out there, it wasn't rock, it was everything. I mean, it was just, the vibe was just amazing. And that there was, other than Wipeout and Wipeout was
Yeah.
the only song with a drum solo.
That's
And-
right.
Yeah, and that was before Edgar Winter. Frankenstein, that was later, right? Everything was different. And in my life, I made the experience different is actually good. Because you're not part of the mass. You just, set yourself apart from the mass. And I think that was great. And that probably was one of the success recipes, so to speak, of I'm Butterfly.
When you play it authentically, it's clear that you have that background, and it shows when you're playing, and that's very difficult to do.
I can tell you one quick story. When I was playing with Lee Dorman, right, the bass player, and unfortunately he passed away a few years back. But there were certain parts of songs where I literally asked him, Lee, did Doug play like this?
No.
Or yeah, but I mean, I did this, but even like that.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, how do you know?" I said,
Yeah.
"That's literally the only way you can do this." And I do this on the church organ too. Sometimes
On
because
two registers.
on two registers or manuals, But if you're supposed to play it on one, all
You
of a
have to cross your
sudden
hands,
you're doing
yeah.
this stuff, and that's why I fully understood what Doug Ingle was doing, and I thought, I guess I can do this, And I'm very proud of having the gig and following his footsteps, and yeah.
Your love for that music shows when you play. It's not just that you're a talented musician, but like Eric said, that specific sound, especially that church combined with ethereal type thing. If you don't get it or you don't love it, you can't play it, I'm sure. Not that I play the keyboard, but I can tell you that the average person couldn't handle that.
Thank you, Mike. How much do we owe you for
It's
this?
just a short $100 instead. So, that's okay.
100? I only got 50.
Yeah, well, he had a longer story than you did. That's why.
But I got paid for
And he spoke to his father. I didn't hear a thing, so
Okay, that was it.
you know how that goes.
We'll figure that out later.
Do you take credit cards?
Yeah, I take anything negotiable.
How about we just we'll take it off
Venmo.
Yeah.
PayPal.
Venmo, yeah.
Venmo.
Venmo, that's right.
Zelle.
What are some of the band's greatest strengths?
I think that there's nothing that sounds like Iron Butterfly out there, and that's probably its greatest strength. Is that it's not riff rock. It's I'm not sure what it is, but there's nothing similar to it. So that's a strength.
One of our biggest strengths is we play with a lot of heart, and I like to call it intent. We have the same, I think, hope that we have the same intent as the original band did. It was something that they put everything in. I mean, you watch his old videos and you see Ron, he's just completely going 100% into it.
Yeah.
And we kind of do that. A lot of the older bands don't do that. They just kind of like play the parts correctly and under control. And we're still playing the parts correctly and under control, but we put a lot of juice behind it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Basically, I think that sets us apart from being a tribute band.
Yeah.
a tribute band would just probably play the songs exactly like they are on the record. No, we put our own identity into the songs as well. We cherish what Iron Butterfly did, but I think we have enough freedom to
Yeah.
be ourselves in the process, you know, and that's I suppose that's what everybody
Well, you know,
cherishes.
I said something like that to Eric tonight. Eric gave me a nice
Exactly.
compliment, said you played well, and I appreciate that. But I told him, and I think it can't happen as much with you guys because you're doing notes. You know what I'm saying? But what Dave said is that the percussion part of this, because you can play it differently every time. It's the feel you get that night, as long as you're within a certain, you know, in the timing. And it's always different. Every time it sounds different. I don't say, oh, we're doing this song again, like you would when you tour, you know, because it's different. So these guys are all outstanding, but one night or the same night, they all just surprise hell. He'll do a drum solo that just knocks you off your feet. This guy's like, and when I say amazing out there, I mean it. You know, this guy, all of them. And so I think every night, even though you're doing the same thing, it's different, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Not just because you played a better show, but just the feel is different. You get
That's the whole point of the Iron Butterfly.
Yeah.
If you look at a butterfly the way it flies, you can come right at you and then just disappear around you. And it can go up and down, and you never know where it's going to land. You don't know what's going to happen. And you have to first have really super competent people around you that can flow with that and just step out to the edge and just throw yourself into it and bring everyone into it and let it flow.
That's a good point.
And that was my take on what I learned from the original guys, was because no two shows are going to be the same, and that's the beauty of it.
You know what's interesting as well? We don't have to be high to do this.
That's true.
That is a good
Very
point.
level-headed,
Yeah.
and we still get the same kick out of it.
No, the
You know,
music.
and
The
I
music
would-
is the energy.
I would
It's,
say back in '69 or '68, I did probably to say that was slightly different. But you know, the music speaks for itself.
Well,
You
too,
can-
like what I said tonight, it's joking, but I was serious. So there's no incense. I was said, but in a few minutes when we start the song, you'll have all those same smells again, because this is not just a sound experience. This is going to sound real hippie-ish, but it is a psychedelic experience.
Sure.
You hear the stuff, especially in Vita, when you guys are doing, it definitely transports you back in time, you know. And I found myself feeling like, God, you know, if I could just do this again. You know, and because it was amazing, and at the time I didn't like it. It was okay, but then I said that's too weird. But now you talk about weird. There's nothing weird. We were talking in the van. Everybody's at dinner and they're all looking at their cell phones and texting and this and that. It wasn't that, you know. It was just a whole cultural revolution that changed, and I feel that every time we play. That's in the music. This guy does. There was another. I'm not going to mention any name, but there was another guitar player, well known, who's a great guitar player, but he couldn't capture that sound like him. You know, I hear him play, all these guys, but I hear him play specifically, and it's just like, it just transports me back to the Galaxy when I heard them before, you know, or Beatles or any place like that. And it's just amazing. I think it's a time machine in a sense, you know?
I think just also speaking for me, to me it's a huge privilege to play with every musician in this band, and that I trust these guys. And when you trust somebody and you go out on stage and you can look around and say, man, everyone, that we can pull this off, even if we make mistakes or even if we kind of fall a little bit, we're going to pull it back together. And personally for me, it's never let me down.
What would you like our listeners to know about Iron Butterfly?